Hi friends, welcome to episode 91. Well, we're kind of getting there, but everything's a bit slow. I was up here earlier on this week. I did a couple of days, but it's mainly prep. So I didn't bother to film as much of that as I perhaps would have done normally. The plan of action at the moment, the key thing is to get those advert panels prepared and back on the bus. They're the main thing I want to get done at this stage. However, there's a very minor complication. There is a little wooden strip that runs across the top. Now, when I took it off, it was a bit odd because the wooden strip that sits above the adverts is screwed on from inside the bus. And the only way you can do that is to take the interior out of the bus upstairs. I'm certainly not going to do that. So I don't know how they did that. I'll show you that later on. So my plan of action is to make up some battening and then put some battening on the inside of the panel, which was very much the same as what was on the offside. So anyway, near side, don't know why it's different, but you'll find these things on an RT. I think over the years, when they've had little bumps and scrapes, they've come up with ways of getting around these problems. So anyway, this weekend, fingers and toes crossed, my good friend Alan Brown might be popping in. I'll probably do most of that off camera because he's a little bit shy. Because I want to have a chat with him about some experiences I had with the paint the other day. So anyway, let's get on with this weekend on a rather dull Saturday. The weather, it's a bit like winter time. It's the middle of August. Luckily, I'm getting some extra days up the barn. I'm falling behind. I really had planned that by now we'd have been able to quickly rub down the ceiling panels and then be ready to spray them over the bank holiday weekend. Although I don't look like I'll be able to do that now because this project is dragging on a little bit, but never mind, we'll get there eventually. So the joys of owning an RT. Right, let's kick off with this. Right, this is a simple job that I actually managed to get done. It was a bit of a frustrating weekend, as I mentioned in the intro. Right, so this is the rear indicator unit that's just by the platform there. And it was a modification because it wasn't originally fitted onto the RT. There was the original one was actually on the offside, which would have given people, unless you were really close to the bus, a really confusing indication because the left turn indicator was actually on the right hand side of the bus. So they fitted these. And they're basically two simple blocks of wood and a little lamp unit. Unfortunately, for some reason, the fixings, I think, were through the inside of the bus. And when I took this off, they weren't in a particularly good condition. So what I've done is I've reused the wood as best as possible, put a little bit of filler in there as well. And I'm just basically going to reuse as much of it as I can. What I've done is to just there, and although you can't see it at the moment because I've got the drill in the way, is a bracket. So I've put two new brackets on the end of it and fitted them. So what I'm doing at the moment is I'm reusing the old conduit. So the conduit carries the little electrical cables. There's two of them. So I had to rewire those as well. So here I am doing the rewiring of that conduit. Right, so while I'm away doing the rewiring, these are the two little lamp units, or the little covers for the lamp units. The one in the centre, that's the one for the near side, which is what I'm fitting now. That was the first coat, and I wasn't happy with the corner there, so I rubbed it back down again. Then you've got the one on the left-hand side. That's the one that was on the off side of the vehicle. From the sort of the centre of it, I suppose, you've got the brake light and the side and towel, and then just above it you've got the directional indicator. Now the one that points towards the top of shot, that's the right turn one, and the one that's at the other end, that was originally the left turn one. You can see how confusing it would be for following motorists because this wasn't in the centre of the bus. It was on the offside, which is where I'm sitting doing that rewiring at the moment. So if you were some distance from the bus that's travelling along, you'd easily mistake that for the bus turning right, when in actual fact it was turning left. So there we are. Now, to prevent water ingress onto the near side of the bus on that little one on the left, there's a little sheet of rubber, and I just wanted to tidy it up a little bit because it had gone dry and brittle, and I thought maybe I'll make it a bit better by putting some tyre black on it. So here I am putting a little bit of tyre black on the sheet of rubber that fits in on the left hand side, and also the little sheet of rubber that sits in that other light unit. I possibly could, with some effort, actually have remade those, but I'd have to order in some rubber and stuff like that. And I thought, well, they'll probably be all right, and we'll see how we get on. So we'll see how they get on when they dried up. So hopefully they'll work out okay when we finally get to put the back of the bus back together again. Right, so while I'm doing the rewiring, I think it's a good opportunity to point this out. This was a terminal block that was inside the offside lamp unit, and there are 6 little terminals there. In fact, one's disused, and 5 other than the 6th one, which was disused, were all completely seized solid. The little screws in there were holding the wires on, and I had to, as you can see, I've had to cut them off, leaving the wires in situ. Now, I gave them a bath of WD-40, and I left them in there for a few days, tried it, didn't seem to budge. So in the end, they stayed in there for about a fortnight in WD-40. And then in the end, I thought, well, it's not getting anywhere. So I had to drill them out. They didn't record me drilling them out, but I got the pillar drill and I very carefully drilled them out. This is what the little grub screw that sits inside looks like. So this is one that I recovered, and Mark Davis excitedly phoned me up at one point a few weeks back and said, "Oh, Dean, I think I've got it." And he'd gone to a little hardware shop in Leighton, and we brought it back, we tested it out, and unfortunately it was completely the wrong thread, so it's such a shame. So, and having drilled these out, it's made a little bit of a mess of the threads. So I'm probably going to have to recut the thread. So what I'll try and do is to go a size bigger. But as you can see by those little brackets there, you really haven't got a lot of space. So I'm not entirely sure. If I can't do it, then I'm going to have to replace it with a more modern block and just get away with it. But if I can, I'd really like to try and reuse that old block. But sometimes with this sort of restoration, you just can't do it. They're not available. And that's it, unfortunately. So, right, let's move on from that. Right, here are some of the panels I sprayed on Sunday. I know they look a bit different, but they're not. They're the same colour. Those are those ones that are supposed to go up here eventually. There's the 2 with the drains, and there's 2 there without. I've still got to do the white. The white gloss needs to go on, and there'll be another coat of green on them eventually. This is one of the back panels, this one here, just over this side, there we go. That's where the lamp box sits, so that's one panel. And then we move over here, we've got one of the wheel arch panels, we've got another wheel arch panel there. This is the back beading that sits at the very bottom. So then you've got wheel arch, and we've got that one there with a little cutout, that's for the fuel panel there. And then we've got one I've already just rubbed down. I've just done that one, the one on the right hand side. That's another one for the wheel arch. That's the offside wheel arch, which is currently off the bus at the moment, obviously. Then I've got another one, that's for the near side wheel arch. That's the panel that goes by the platform with the left turn indicator on it. And then we've got that one there, which is just alongside it, is one just below the driver's cab on the offside. It's not on the bus at the moment because it gives me access to some cables that are there, so I haven't fitted that yet. So there we are. There are the little pile of panels. That's just some of them. I've got some more hidden around the corner, but I just haven't got enough space to pull them all out. So yeah, that was Sunday's spraying debacle. So yeah, making use of the fact that 1804, there we go, wasn't in the shed at the time. So, right, let's move on. Right, as I mentioned in the intro, here's my little conundrum. This thing here is the back of the Advert panel. And you've got a line of these little sort of black blobby things. What they are, that is the back of that wooden strip. Now the wooden strip, let me just show you on this one. There you go, that's the wooden strip. That's the one that sits over the top of the Advert panel. This is the very last panel that I took off. And lo and behold, it's got a bit of battening on it, which is really handy. However, this doesn't. And what it is the wooden strip. We can just get in close there. You can see there's little wood screws. So they've been screwed in from this side of the panel. Now, that in itself, probably not a huge problem if you do, the panel and then it sort of finishes here. So in other words, if that bit of battening stops there, but it doesn't. It carries on all the way down sort of beyond to the other panel. So I can't imagine that they put both panels up together, because that's the only way I think you can achieve that with one piece of battening all the way along the bus. Now, if we go up here, because we can do this with the bus out, this bit, there's your Advert panels. There you go, that's where the Advert panels go. Now, where you see those, what looks like handles, now they are Rexine panels inside the bus. And the only way to get through to the Advert panel will be to take those off. But there's a problem. Just over here, this one here, is a stress panel, which is part of the main metalwork of the bus. So you really can't get through that. So I don't know how they did it. So what I'm going to do is the very last bit by the blind box there, that's got that bit of wooden battening on it. So I'm going to simply replicate that wooden battening and take that all the way along the inside of the two Advert panels. And then this little strip here, see those little grey bits of wood there? That's the range strip. There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint that, and I need to drill all the holes in it for the wood screws to go through the panel. And once that's done, we can then get the panels up, and hopefully I can then say, right, that little job, we tick it off. So there we are. There's the interesting little conundrum. Right, so this is the nice side of those Advert panels. These are the replacements. What I'm doing here is I've drilled a line of holes all the way along each edge using millimeters. They're 5 millimeters away from the edge. They have to be there because, one, they hold the panel in, but they also need to hide underneath the beading, and the beading is only 1 inch wide. Now, look, mixing metric with imperial, so therefore these have to be right on the edge of the panel. So what I'm doing here is I'm countersinking the holes where the screws are going to go, because if the screws stick up, then they'll push the beading out the way. So anyway, so that's what I'm doing there. Now, it's important to point out actually that this paint is a new paint that I tried on the recommendation of my friend Alan Brown, and I didn't really get on with it, to be honest with you. Normally I'll get a really nice finish, and I wasn't happy with that finish. You have a look, it's a little bit on the blurry side. So yeah, I wasn't happy with that. I might go back to some of my Tecoloid. Right, so it's in need of a second coat of paint, and here's a couple of the panels, or 3 of the panels, on the front of my Titan. It's looking rather dusty, the poor old Titan. Right, this is my paint woes. There's 2 types of paint here. The smaller panel on the right hand side is some very, very old Tecoloid paint that probably dates back over 30 years, and that has gone on really nicely. But the can of that is now running very low, as a result of which I had to buy some new paint for it, and I was recommended to try a different type of paint. So for the bigger panels, I bought this new paint. Unfortunately, I'm not getting on well with it. As you might just about be able to see, I'm getting dry spots, and it's coming up really orange peely. You can see that, look. See that orange peel? That is just dreadful. Now, my good friend Alan Brown had to come in here the other day and had a chat about it. and he suggested changing the gun pressure and the nozzle size and all that sort of stuff for the technically minded. I'm using a 1.7 nozzle, and apparently I'm supposed to be using a 1.4. But anyway, that is really atrociously bad. Now, let me just show you, if I go down here past the Dusty Titan, this is the Tecoloid, the oil base. In fact, you can hardly see anything in that, and that's really nice. And I sprayed that panel ages ago. There you go. Look, you can see the difference between the two when I flick it about. Look, see that? So the bottom panel, really nice. The top panel, horrible. Now, I've got just about enough oil-based paint to do these two panels. This one didn't come up too bad, actually. So I don't know why. It's the same pressure as the other one, but the other one went really bad. This one, no, not sure. I'm not happy with it. Oh, look, you can see a bad bit there, look. So it's got all these little dry bits. It's not gone on very well at all. It's going to be a case of me having to gather a bit of knowledge as to how this particular paint works. You can see those are spots where it was dry. It looks like some water's dropped on it while it was left in the yard overnight. So anyway, never mind. Yeah, it's a bit of a shame really, because they're going to have to be flatted down again, these two. Because I'm not happy about it. They're not going on the bus like that. Right, so that little disaster means I've got to rub the whole panel down again. I've done a dry rub down with the orbital sander, and now I'm doing it with the wet and dry paper. So yeah, a bit of a shame really, but I suppose it's a learning curve. I'll get it right eventually. And I know I don't want to keep going over old ground on this, but I will. The purpose of this is eventually the bus will be completely repainted by hopefully somebody who knows what they're doing. And but I want to make sure that everything is absolutely right for them. So hence the reason why I'm getting these panels to this condition. So right, let's have a look at some of the social stuff that went on this weekend. It was really great to see a fair few people up the barn this weekend. And a quick shout out to my friend Lee Rose and his friend Mark Oldman, who popped up on Sunday to have a play with their Metro. So here I am taking out RM1804. I'm sticking it outside because I wanted a little bit more space inside the barn. So anyway, let's have a look and see what Mark and Lee were up to. Right, so this is Metro 1014, which was one of the original Airbus Metros, which worked out at Stamford Brook on the services out to Heathrow Airport from central London. This one has a 4-speed gearbox, which means theoretically it should go a lot quicker, although I think tend to find that when they do that they go a lot slower on hills. But they were used on the M4. Unlike the BEA Routemasters, they didn't need to tow a trailer. But anyway, they made some modifications to it, including fitting a disabled ramp to the middle doors. There you see, you can fit disabled ramps to high floor buses. Anyway, eventually this Metro was downgraded onto normal service work, but they left some of the features intact. But when they did the conversion, they took a fair amount of the floor out, and the floor now is lifting. So Mark and Lee were having a go at this, removing the floor, which is no simple task. Right, Mark Davis was up and about early on Sunday morning to take his RM158 to an event at Lodges, who are a coach company that run mainly modern coaches, but they've got some older stock as well. And they hold an annual event up at their yard. And along there also included DM999 from our shed. Right, so here's Mark in RM158 returning back. Jamie's just done the gate for him. It was a successful day for Mark because he was really pleased. He won an award, second prize for the most presentable bus or whatever it was there. So anyway, here is Mark with his rosette and his registration plate from RM158, which I assume he keeps just locked away for this particular occasion. So well done, Mark. I'm really pleased for you. It's great to see you get something so superb. So right, let's move on to this. This is really a job for next time anyway, but I have made a bit of a start on it. Right, so this is the rear of the bus. As you can see, it's the last of the MBC paint that needs to come off. Those little white bands also have got to be dealt with. I'm going to keep those corner panels because they are shaped and they're going to be a bit of a piglet to get anyone to make them. So I'm going to keep them, hence the reason why I need a large bucket full of filler. Although it's not in here, I didn't film it, but there was a huge amount of dust created as a result of me doing this one little panel here. So this is the near side, which I'm going to have to do next time. It's a work in progress. I've got to get it done before I can start popping all those panels back on, because otherwise a huge load of mess is going to go everywhere. Some of it's going to require the old paint stripper as well, so it's best not to put nicely painted panels back on until I've done the paint stripping. So there we are. Right, all for next time. If you've enjoyed this one, YouTube, I'm sure, will recommend you another one to watch. And meanwhile, I'll get on with popping up the barn again this weekend. It's bank holiday, and getting on with more on this bus. So thanks very much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, stick one of those like things in there. Apparently YouTube like it. I don't know quite why, but they do enjoy it. It helps their algorithm or whatever it's called. So thanks very much, and look forward to seeing you next time.